from each area how Panama City changed with the time. In the first moment, we have the participation of Rebecca Somoza. Ms. Somoza obtained her structural architecture degree from the Catholic University of Santa Maria la Antigua in Panama City. And also she was served as Executive Director of the Historic District Office in 2014. Then she was the Director of the Liberty and Human Rights Museum in Panama City. Actually, she is part of the ICOMOS, the International Council Museum and Site, the UNESCO, in Panama and international. Please welcome to Ms. Somoza.
Hi, thank you very much. I'll be sharing my screen. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. And hopefully we will discover together many changes that happen through Republican area in the Panama City's historic district. Oh, I'm sorry, it doesn't, it's not moving. Oh.
Okay, I think we lost to Ms. Somoza.
Hi, I'm trying to get in my presentation again. Okay, do you see it?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. Okay. Now I would like to give my many thanks to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for this invitation. And I prepared this conference with several updated data from the Ministry of Culture, the Authority of Tourism, and also documents as the book La Ciudad Imaginada, The Imagined City by Dr. Castillero Calvo, the article El Casco Antiguo de la Ciudad de Panamá, Casco Antiguo, Panama City's Historic District by Dr. Tejera Davis, the State of Conservation Country Report for the World Heritage Center UNESCO, January 2017, and photographs from previous and internet sources, the National Library, and the Panama Vieja Escuela blog, Panama Old School. I prepared an itinerary with 5 stops at Casco Antiguo, and hopefully you will join me starting with history, urbanism, society, architecture, and economy. So let's I want to share this timeline that corresponds to the contemporary era. There are several world milestones like the 2 world wars, the Declaration of Human Rights, Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Act, and the fall of the Berlin Wall that started the third globalization. In the meantime, parallelly, we had in Panama our Republican era and several milestones, starting with the 1903 separation of Panama from Colombia. And 15 days after the separation, we signed the High-Buno-Varilla Treaty that allowed the United States to build the Panama Canal. It was inaugurated in 1914. By 1964, we had the rupture of diplomatic relations with the United States. And there comes a military dictatorship period, starting in 1968 with the coup d'etat by General Omar Torrijos. And during that period, the Torrijos-Carter Treaty was signed in 1977, allowing Panama to recover the Panama Canal, the operation, the military bases, and all the territorium. And it finished with the invasion of Panama by the United States, and that started our democracy period until these days. The surrender of General Manuel Antonio Noriega happened in the 1990, and the reversion of Panama Canal and the entire Panama Canal zone was completed by 1999. So let's start with our first stop, history, from department to nation. In 1821, we got our independence from Spain. By the 20th century, by the 19th century, several countries from South America, Central America got their independence, and Simón Bolívar had the idea to unite all these new countries under a great umbrella called Gran Colombia. We united this confederation, and when it was dissolved, we remain as an associated state of Colombia. Dr. Justo Semena, who is shown here, was one of our main diplomats, and he also imposed the idea and the status of Panama as an independent state, and we were struggling for sovereignty since that time. You can see here the Plaza de Chiriquí barracks. These were the prison during colonial times, and it remained like that until the execution of General Victoriano Lorenzo, which took place in the same bastion. The Compagnie Universelle du Canal Interoceanique was building the Panama Canal in the late 19th century, and after the separation of Panama from Colombia, that we started as a republic, an independent republic, our new government started a big program of construction of infrastructure and institutions. And part of this program, an example is this new city hall that was built in the old colonial building. And Dr. Belisario Porras, who is portrayed here, was president twice, and he led those efforts. The Plaza de Francia's opening, where he is portrayed too, is a commemorative square of the works of the Panama Canal since colonial times until passing through the French period and also the United States efforts. Dr. Ricardo J. Alfaro is one of our main historical person, and he was a great contributor of the Declaration of Human Rights. He was president of Panama, and here you can see the presidential palace, a beautiful building, a white building that has influences from the Spanish and Mediterranean architecture, and has been witness of many important events in Panamanian history. In the lower left, you can see the Palacio Bolivar, that it is the headquarters of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now, let's talk about urbanism from small city to World Heritage. In this map from 1904, you can see the shape of Panama as a peninsula surrounded by the Pacific Ocean. And in the land area, the wall was demolished to extend the city towards the neighborhoods of Santa Ana and El Chorrillo. In this city map, you can see above, in the north direction, you can see the lines of the railroad, and a picture of the tramway is shown here. The visit of President Theodore Roosevelt was the first visit of the United States president overseas, and he did it to Panama to to see the construction of the Panama Canal. He was received right in front of our cathedral in the historic district by our first president, Dr. Manuel Amador Guerrero. Dr. William Gorgas was a key person also in these efforts of the construction of the Panama Canal, because he was able to set a health and a sanitation program that allowed this administration to control the mosquitoes that cause yellow fever and malaria. And becoming World Heritage, we have been issuing several laws to protect the historic district and the surrounding areas. We started with the blue area that is portrayed here in this map. It belongs to the San Felipe neighborhood, and it was protected by 1976. By 1997, which is the same year that we were declared World Heritage, this was extended to the pink area that you can see, and is part of the Santa Ana and El Chorrillo neighborhoods. And the last protection was established in the seaside by 2014. On your right, you can see a beautiful view of the San Felipe neighborhood, the whole area that is densely built. We also submitted a new nomination property called Colonial Transismian Route that connects the World Heritage that we have in the Pacific and in the Atlantic through the Royal Road and Las Cruces Trail. These roads help connect these cities and these forts to pass by all the treasures from South America. Now society, from provincial to cosmopolitan. Our society at the early days of our life as an independent country was a mix of people from migrations, and also the citizens that came from Europe, all others that came from the Caribbean, Afro descendants, and also indigenous and their descendants. And we were a very conservative society. You can see and seen and inherited several traditions from Spain, like this bullfighting in the Plaza de Santana, a very important square and right in front of the church. Here, traditional dancing, music that you can see here. The women is dressed with our national costume, la pollera, and a scene of the carnival parade. We had several also religious parades too. And now becoming a more cosmopolitan society, we have several influences in the arts, contemporary arts. Here is shown in Las Bóvedas, the old prison I mentioned. And well, my friend Humberto will tell you more about how contemporary art has been developed in Panama and the historic district area. And you can see here also public events with people from all over the world in the Plaza Mayor, which is now the Independence Plaza, and cultural festivals at night, a fashion catwalk, the International Film Festival that is held in the National Theater, and also with this great restoration dynamic and economic growth, we are unfortunately having this gentrification phenomenon where our older neighbors are losing their homes, and they are living in repurposed school shelters because they cannot afford the prices that we have here in the historic district. And there are protests also of local inhabitants for social housing. Now let's talk about architecture from colonial to eclectic. The best examples of our Hispanic colonial architecture that has many influences from our indigenous people are the cathedral and several churches. By colonial times, we had 9 churches in this small area. Casa Góngora is one of the examples of domestic architecture. You can see the long corridors and the half arches that are portrayed here, the tiling, the roof tiling, and also the convent of Santo Domingo and its chapel, this white chapel that is now a museum, and the golden altar that is shown here in a Baroque style. And to eclectic, we have a combination of several influences. You can see here Art Deco, Art Nouveau, for example, the San Francisco Church is showing this beautiful bell tower in a more neo-Renaissance style. The National Theater was designed by the Italian architect Gennaro Ruggieri, and it has these beautiful balconies, and also we can see in the ceiling the majestic paintings from the master Roberto Lewis. The Hotel Colombia has influences from Moorish architecture from Spain and the Arabic world, and below the Museum of the Panama Canal that shows influences from the French architecture with this mansard in the roof, and Casa Francia and Casa Boyacá, warehouses built in wood with these beautiful lattice works, openings, and the corridor, the long balconies. And unfortunately, we lost these 2 beautiful pieces of architecture and that serve as social housing in a fire by 2017. So our last topic is economy, from trade to cultural tourism. We had a high influx of migrations from several parts of the world during Gold Rush. And by that time, we started to build several hotels. Here is portrayed the Grand Central Hotel. And at street level, you can see some imports retailers that imported goods from France, the United States, England, and China too. And you can see in your right some boats anchored in Panama's Bay. And these boats were very important for the exchange of goods and food between the city and the countryside. A very important cafe, an iconic cafe, is the Coca-Cola Cafe, and it was visited by presidents, movie stars, famous writers. Below you can see a Chinese import shop that portrays several items from China. And on your right, you can see the Carlos Endara Photo Studio, one of the first photo studios in the city. And this citizen from Ecuador built this beautiful building, and which still remains and is a museum. to cultural tourism. We are trying to position ourselves as a destination for nature and cultural tourism. And you can see some visitors walking over the tramway rails in the Central Avenue. And in these, lately we had over 500,000 people visiting Panama. Well, the pandemic has changed those numbers. And several hotels are being built in the historic district, like the American Trade Hotel that you can see here in Plaza Herrera, which is considered a skyscraper in Casco Antiguo, and some handcraftsmen at Paseo Esteban Huertas selling their pieces of art. And the Panama Jazz in the Teatro Nacional, here a rehearsal. It is an international music festival. The Museum of Religious Art, Colonial Art, has a great collection of bells and several other interesting pieces. And at Santo Domingo Beach, you can even have participate in a paddle contest. Another example is this beautiful house, Casa Calvo, in a Belle Epoque style. And at street level, there is a Guayabera boutique. The Guayaberas are these tropical shirts made of linen and cotton. And some outdoor dining you can see in Plaza Bolivar with handcrafts, restaurants, and cafes too. And as takeaways, I would like you to have these souvenirs from Casco Antiguo. The history, regarding history, well, our struggle for sovereignty, about urbanism, our exceptional, the layout of the city, and the location in the middle of the Americas, and that has allowed us the distinction as World Heritage. Our society is a multicultural, diverse society. Architecture is a mixture of styles, of materials, techniques, technologies, and our economy is a globalized economy. We are based in the US dollar as our currency, a logistics center surrounding the Panama Canal and the maritime industry, ports, and also a banking center. And now we are positioning ourselves as a destination for nature and culture. So hopefully we will see you very soon here. And I would like to thank you, and I'll be glad to take any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Ms. Amosa, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Francisco.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, now we have the participation of Humberto Vélez. Mr. Vélez is a lawyer, graduated in the University of Panama, in Panama City, and he also awarded a scholarship by the Foundation of Latin American Cinema to study filmmaking and TV in the International School of the Cinema in San Antonio, Cuba, founded by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the famous writer. And also, he participated in many performance shows at the Tate Modern in London, the Centre Pompidou in Paris, and the Art Gallery of Ontario in Canada. Among others, he participated in international art events in Italy, in Venice, in Havana, Cuba, and Shanghai, and Montevideo, Uruguay. Now, Mr. Vélez, he works as an artist, art professor, and independent filmmaker, and also an art producer. Please welcome Mr. Vélez.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. My conversation of today, my conference is about contemporary art in Panama. With this photo, Francisco, I will show you some images of some contemporary artists in our country. Mainly, what I would like to present is contemporary art from the year 2000 to 2020 years of contemporary art in Panama. But before that, I would like to say a few words related with the last decades of the 20th century in our country. At the beginning of the last decade of the 20th century, Panama was framed by two momentous events. The decade opened with the United States invasion. If we just keep it, yeah, thank you very much, Francisco, lovely. The decade opened with the United States invasion on December the 20th, 1989, and finished with the official handover of the canal to Panama on the last day of December 1999. The traumas caused by the invasion, the fall of the long dictatorship, and the gradual dissolution of the colonial enclave have increased our whole obsession in defining what may constitute a Panamanian identity. But in this case, without a nationalist claim to homogeneity that in the past has restrained a driving critical debate of the subject. Then, as never before, artists and the arts are taking on a leading role in this complex question. And I would like to talk about three fantastic artists from Panama of the second part of the 20th century. The first is Julio Sacrason, and you can see one of his paintings at the moment. Julio Sacrason is in his early 20s. In his early 90s, even though he's so vital, he's still amazingly young. The point of the work of Sacrason, his main thematic and formal trends are urban reality, something that young artists from our country still follow. Some of his themes are the ubiquitous tropical environment, the recording of traditional or aboriginal techniques. And if we can move to the next image, please, Francisco. An open sensuality. This is Julio Sacrason. A mischievous humor, social commentary with ironic flair, and the body as a metaphor. The image that you're seeing is the poster of a documentary about Sacrason made some years ago by Abner Benair, one of our most important filmmakers. And you can see Sacrason at the moment, he has been living in Madrid since the 1960s. And his art still conveys the spirit of the popular and urban neighborhoods of Panama. Julio Sacrason. The other artist, the second artist, is Brooke Alfaro. The life of, and this, now you are looking at one of the prints of Julio Sacrason. You can see, well, his sense of humor. There's a kind of commentary about the social and the situation in Panama with our very special way of living and our past related with colonial, not in this case necessarily, but the colonial and post-colonial influence that we had with the United States former enclave. If we move into the next image, please. So we carry on now with Brooke Alfaro. The lives of the marginalized urban inhabitants of Panama City also nourish the work of Brooke Alfaro, born in 1949, especially the residents of San Felipe, or the Old Town, the area that my friend Rebecca just mentioned a few moments ago. This historic district, where he lived for many years and where he returns every day to work. He presents a caustic sense of humor and trick to subvert the possible interpretation of his art. He started with portraits, and then he took into installation, video art, and now landscape, as you can see, and sculpture. And there you can see one of his pictures. Usually they are in a huge, big scale, a combination of landscape and portraits of people. Usually these people are characters from the old district, from the old town. The third important, very relevant artist from the 20th century is Sandra Eleta. Sandra Eleta, the power of the images of Sandra Eleta, the most international photographer of Panama, lies in her intimate gaze. And that's it, in the way the body and face reveal some truth about the protagonist and the environment. Her most compelling and comprehensive testimony of her body of work is the one devoted to the humble fishing village of Portobello in the Caribbean, where she has lived for more than 5 decades. And this is one of the pictures taken of one of the inhabitants of Portobello in the Caribbean. He got a wonderful series of portraits of the people of Portobello. The 21st century. It started with a major event in Panama, an international major public art event called Ciudad Múltiple or Multiple City. This month international event in 2003, commemorating the centenary of the separation of Panama of Colombia, was curated by Cuban curator Gerardo Mosquera and art critic, writer, and curator, Panamanian curator, Adrien Santos. 12 artists were invited to participate. Francis Alice from Belgium and Mexico, Gada Amer from Egypt, Silvio Merieles from Brazil, Gustavo Artigas from Mexico, Hu Xiong from China, and he lives at the moment, he has been living for many years now in Vancouver. Joan Capote and Juan Andrés Milanés from Cuba, Jesus Palomino from Spain, Our Way of Thinking from Venice, and Gustavo Araujo, Brooke Alfaro, and me for Panama. And we were all invited to create works capable of making a direct impact of the people of the street through photography, installation, performances, and video installation. At the moment, you're looking at the picture of one of the performances created by Francis Alice, a very well-known international artist, and it was a minute of silence. Francis Alice and his team went around popular neighborhoods of Panama City, asking people to have a moment of quietness, a moment of reflection, or simply a moment with themselves. We can move into the next picture, please, Francisco. Thank you very much. There's another moment here as well, another picture. Just they were moving from one street to the other, creating these special moments. We got another wonderful image now. This is an event, a performance created by Mexican Gustavo Artigas, in which he created a fake burning of the old town hall in Panama in the old district. It was absolutely dramatic, spectacular, and create a major havoc in the area. The subject of this was to think about monuments, about time, about history. What are we doing with it? Are we burning it? Are we saving it? Are we forgetting it? And maybe we can see more images, please, Francisco. Let's see what we got now from the, as I said, that is the Plaza de la Independencia next to the cathedral that you can see at the foreground at the left. And there was the fireworkers just came to increase the drama of this fake burning of the town hall. And can move into the next image of Ciudad Múltiple, Multiple City. Okay, fantastic. Another version of it. Very realistic, very dramatic. Gustavo Artigas from Mexico. Maybe we're moving into the next, please. Thank you, Francisco. This is a piece of one of the piece of Gadamer, and she worked in collaboration with popular painters of Panama City. These painters usually paint bosses, or used to paint bosses in the capital, and she included their skills into creating these signs, a series of signs all around the city with Arab proverbs. In this case, what is said, the translation is, what you see is true. What you listen maybe is not. And we will see now another sign of Gadamer, the amazing Egyptian artist. Let's move to the next one, please, Francisco. Thank you. And that is the contrast between the skyscrapers that in Panama City and poor area or working class area, to be more specific. In that it's a huge economic and social divide that we have in Panama. We're moving into the next one, please. Thank you. If you get, and the sign said, occupy the top of the hill to control. And the location that you're seeing is the former headquarters of the governor of the Canal Zone, the colonial area in Panama, the territory occupied by the United States, and that we took back in the year 2000. Occupy the top of the hill for controlling. And we went into another wonderful proverb. We're moving into the next image, please, Francisco. Thanks a lot. If you eat less, you taste more. And that's Gadamer, actually. She's taking some Panamanian, hopefully, delicacies. And the next one is, see, as well at the center of the financial, at the time, the financial headquarters in Panama. It's about peace. It's very difficult to read this one. Yeah, and peace and war. And possibly the next one, we're moving into possibly, I think, the final image of Francisco. Thank you very much. Taking a moment. Thank you, Francisco. And that's the cover of the book of Multiple City with the performance event of Gustavo Artigas. Next, please. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Francisco. This is the work of Gustavo Araujo. Gustavo Araujo is an artist who died about 10 years ago. And his work goes beyond the traditional boundaries of photography. His images are often contained in billboards, industrial light boxes, like this one that you can see, and become pieces that redefine the surrounding space, creating its own space. There's another industrial light box we will see next. We're moving into the next fantastic exit. And then this is a very small piece contained with a beach landscape in the exit, in the frames. And possibly the last one, that is a public art project, say things are harsh. That was a series of billboards created for Ciudad Multiple City in 2003. And we move into the next piece. In this case, this is a piece that I created in 2007 for the Tate Modern, and it was called Defied. Defied was a participatory event that included amateur boxing club from South London. At the time, the Tate was recently based in the South Bank and wanted to incorporate the participation of all the neighborhoods and the people who live surrounding the area. In this case, I worked with all these amateur boxing clubs, and we took over the dictate using the metaphor of boxing as a way of the idea of surviving and action. And we took over the dictate by the river, by the Thames, and as well we crossed the Millennium Bridge, working with different cultural communities, including the African, the Irish, the Middle East as well. All these clubs inside at the Sherman Hall, we reinvented a choreography, including hip hop and rap, to redefine the ideas of box, arting, and dance and music in an event that took about 4 hours. And the next image, please, Francisco. This is another of my performances that is called Le Plongeon, Deep Dive. Is a cabaret aquatique commissioned by the Centre Pompidou at the Piscine Josephine Baker, that is as a floating piscine at at Paris by the Seine. And I work in this case in collaboration with swimming clubs, different kind of swimming clubs of Paris, and young artists, dancer, poets, musician. And remember as well, the soundtrack was created by a talented Iranian composer to create this commemoration about the multiculturality of Paris and the young people inspired by Josephine Baker. And the next image, please, Francisco. And this is a piece for the Havana Biennial in 2003. And I created in collaboration with this amazing all-female band called Cristal, a series of concerts about the condition of women, and specifically women artists in Cuba. And now you can see this traditional and very fantastic, cheerful, colorful outfits that we created for the event in Cuba for the Havana Biennial. And we're moving into the last image of this series. And this is another collaborative performance for the Cuenca Biennial in Ecuador at the Andes, and is a parade and beauty contest of llamas and alpacas. And we were commenting about inclusion, participation of communities in art events, and also commenting about the idea of representation of the arts by every country. In this case, the competitions that we have in some of those international arts events. And this piece is called The Most Beautiful, La Más Bella. And we're moving into the next image, please. This is the artwork. This is a film, a video installation of a fantastic artist, American artist called Donna Conlon. Donna Conlon is an American biologist turned artist who decided to make home in Panama decades ago. Conlon highlights the shifting character of beauty and coexistence by working at the threshold where nature and human relate in her videos, photograph and three-dimensional projects. She has been working alongside Jonathan Harker, born in Ecuador and also who has lived in Panama for most of his life. And we will see now another image, an artwork of Jonathan Harker. Thank you. Jonathan Harker shows a more sardonic view of the tricks of capitalism and Panamanian conservative society. Between his films and video installations, he created a series of postcards commenting ironically about the seriousness of the devotion of Panamanians to folky events and issues. And this is one of his postcards. And the next images are from a group of young photographer called Los del Patíbulo. Los del Patíbulo our fantastic new group of photographers. Now photography and filmmaking have a huge interest, and there's a huge production in Panama. And this one is a photograph of Fernando Bocanegra. What we're going to see next are a series of photographs that Bocanegra and we compiled for an exhibition to be presented in Paris this year, that it was suspended temporarily due to the pandemic. And this is a photograph of Fernando Bocanegra. He photographed this amazing brass band called La Banda del Hogar, playing in a performance taking over the Bio Museum in Panama by the Panama Canal. And you will see a little bit more of La Banda del Hogar in a few moments. We're going to see another picture of Los del Patíbulo. This picture is from another wonderful photographer, and that's Alegre Saporta. The next picture, please. This is another picture of Fernando Bocanegra, and this is a cemetery of bosses. Some years ago, these bosses painted that, if you remember, Gadamer used the imagery of these bosses and worked with the painters in her pieces. Talking about Gadamer, the Egyptian artist in Ciudad Múltiple. These bosses were decommissioned for installing a new system of transport in Panama City. So we had this cemetery of bosses who were decommissioned. These are the documentation of them. We can see another one. We can see very famous character in the back of the bosses. As we can see, maybe families, maybe singers, maybe not usually politicians, but famous, popular characters that we can relate to that in Asia, in Africa, and other places in the globe. Next picture, please, Francisco. Thanks a lot. These show our fascination with music and having a good time. And this is a piece of Alfredo Martínez. Yes, we take seriously music, as you can see. And next picture, please, Francisco. This is a very interesting piece of Jane Alesa. She's a photographer, and she took these pictures at Portobello. We mentioned Portobello is a place where a photographer as well, Sandra Leta, live. And these are the Miro devils. There are particular kind of characters that come out during Catholic festivities, and they take over the streets, and you can see this mask that reminds somehow the old Venetian mask. And Jane Alesa, wonderful photographer, female photographer. And we're moving into the next piece, more of Bocanegra and the cemetery, the boss cemetery. Many bosses. This is a combination of a boss, as we can see, obviously, and one of the most important places in Panama, that is the palace of the assembly, where the laws are creating, and sometimes as well they are protected by this fence from demonstrations. And we're moving into the next one, please. Two friends talking, nice pictures, just talking. And the next picture, please, another picture from the group of Del Pacifico. We love our bicycles, so this is how we decorate it. And we got Ivan Marquez created a series of pictures of bicycles in Panama. We have another one, more bicycles, happy people biking around. This is a very dramatic and great picture. This is this is a burning of drugs decommission, and this the police every week burn the drugs. Decommission is a very efficient labor that they do. They manage to get all these drugs that come from different parts of South America, and they burn it. And this is a very dramatic moment. They're about to be burned. We're moving into the next image, please. Another picture of Olos. And this is a very special one. These are the men of the handsome bull of La Chorrera. La Chorrera is a town not far away from Panama City. And this is a kind of recent tradition and costume in which men dress with the female traditional, one of the traditional outfits. And they are part now of a celebration of our nationality or of costume every day. So that's a very unusual picture and tradition, and that's an amazing. It's another picture by wonderful photographer Jen Alesa. We're moving into the next, please. That is in Portobelo. There is in Portobelo. There's a huge devotion to the Cristo Negro de Portobelo, the Black Christ of Portobelo. And in October, there's a huge procession in which many of the devotees get burned by candles. This is one of the moments. Dramatic. This is by a picture taken by Fernando Bocanegra. This lady is a finalist in the Miss Panama contest. She just received the news that she's not in the final 5. The participation in Miss Panama contest is important for certain group of females because it's an opportunity to present, to protest maybe about how traditional society is and what are the concepts of beauty. In this case, this participant clearly said and stated during the contest that she wanted to say that a Chinese, because she was half Chinese from Chinese heritage and half Panamanian, a Chinese Panamanian could be beautiful, and it was beautiful, and that's why she participated in Miss Panama. Powerful, political, social, personal statement about what beauty is or not. We're moving into the next. And we're going to see now two clips, 2 short videos about there's a new festival of performances in Panama. This is the Banda del Hogar. They remember the picture that we saw with the trumpets initially of the series of the photographer of El Patíbulo. They took over the National Theater, that is the bastion of the high art. And this is a project called Sinfonía Popular, or Popular Symphony. This brass band, formed by working class and mixed race people, took over this space, usually devoted to the high art, to the idea of what's supposed to be art by the high classes. And we can see these bits of this video performance that are going to be presented on the 28th of this month, that is the beginning of the celebration of the 200 years of our independence of Spain. And now, Francisco, if you play, please, the first bit. We need this sound. Maybe we need to restart it. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Yeah, we're going to play it again. Thank you, Francisco, because we need to listen to the sound. Thank you for your patience. La Banda del Hogar is a brass band, one of the most popular in our country, and they parade every in November during the festivities of independence. More than 500 people, not in this case, of course. That is just one moment of the beginning of their performance, and we're going to see just a little bit of what happened afterwards. Popular art, performance art, La Banda del Hogar has been traveling all around the world. Hopefully they would travel maybe to Asia, maybe to the Middle East, maybe to Australia or New Zealand. And yes, Panama art, contemporary art, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Velez, for this presentation, and Mr. Somoza also. Now we have our opportunity to our guest, to if they have any question or comment, you can send a message in the chat room, or you have the opportunity to interact with our experts in this moment. For me, I want to ask something about that, exactly about the 200 years, the independence of Panama from Spain, and how changed Panama in these 2 centuries, in 200 years. I'm sorry. How do you think Panama changed in this time, and what is happening now, in your opinion, with all of this thing in the pandemic, and what will be happen the next year when we expect everything will be okay?
Well, I can start. It's a bit difficult to predict what will happen, but what everybody expects is to recover our health systems, to have people more healthier, and of course the pandemic gave us several lessons regarding how to take better care of our society, of our neighbors, to improve our solidarity, and also the care of our environment. And regarding how have we changed in these 200 years, well, a lot in all areas. And I think for good, starting with what I was mentioning, as a country becoming an independent country, and the time with that 31st of December of 1999 when we received the canal, and finally after a century of struggling with that, it was a quite emotional moment, and for us to feel very proud as Panamanians about how much we have achieved, and keeping the memory of those that lost their lives for this independence and self-determination aim that shared most part of our society. So I think we still have a long way to go, and especially to ease the disparity that we live in several areas, especially the indigenous areas and some urban areas too. And regarding education, to keep improving, to keep learning more, to keep connecting more, and enhance our the excellence of our people. And because we're hard workers and very inspiring, and we have this spirit of solidarity, of moving forward, and hopefully that will keep us going in the right direction.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Vélez.
Well, I think that after the year 2000, it has been possible to think about who we are, and as I mentioned before, the subject of the Panamanian identity, or identities in this case. When the United States government left our territory, we started to have the chance to explore all those issues. Of course, we still live in post-colonial times, and with post-colonial economic and ideological results and effects, and people live in that way, something that people from Africa and from Asia we relate to. We are not the only place who has been living in that situation. One by the British, other by the French. We have the United States as well, in our case. And it's about how to feel confident and good in our own skin. We have achieved many things. We control and the canal, and in a very effective way. We have a very prosperous economy, sort of. We manage. And I think the art is a way of helping us to enjoy and express who we are, as we just see, as we just saw in these images from La Banda del Hogar. We represent, they, for instance, they want to say who we are in their own way, with their own identities, with movement, with music, with confidence, with happiness to others and to themselves. And that's the role of the arts, and that's how it helps all of us into moving forwards in this post-colonial situation that I think that we are.
Absolutely, we are agree with you. In other way, I will want to ask you about how do you think we can strengthen our relation of Panama with other countries, in this case specifically with Asia and Oceania?
Well, I think diplomats are key actors in that sense, and I always dream of having our embassies and our consulates to portray about our culture, our arts, and our nature, and all the beauties that we have. And now internet, has been very helpful to build those bridges, and also the curiosity. Once you present yourself as, I'm from Panama, and you say, "Oh, Panama, where is that?" And right away you can check your cell phone and know about the country, about several in our richness. No, so I think the digital world has helped a lot to build more bridges. And traveling, now we have a little some limitations because of pandemic, but the more people travels, the more they learn from different cultures and strengthen their ties, acknowledging that we are the same but different in our culture, and that's part of what make us so interesting and so valuable. So to build on our differences, and I think Panama in that sense has been a country that has welcomed people from all over the world. We have this history and this future. Our future is to keep those connections in all areas of our Republican life, and especially our people is more aware of connect with people from all over the world. And specifically from Asia, we've have immigrants from China since the Panama Canal construction, and I think before that too, because of the imports and the commercial ties. And with the new relations that we have built, that is going well. I think we are in a good way in that sense. And Oceania, is a little bit far away, but with connections and internet, we stay closer than we ever dreamt. So hopefully we will keep on strengthening those relationships.
Perfect. And now we have our first embassy in Australia.
Oh, good to know. Great.
Yeah. Mr. Velez?
I think that we had long and wonderful links with the Pacific and the Middle East, not only by commerce through the canal, but also as well by migration. I remember that when I was showing work in New Zealand some years ago, I used to talk to many English people, telling me how they arrived to New Zealand by boat. They crossed the canal, and there's a Panama Street in Wellington. On the other hand, so it's just how to reinstate all these links. The Pacific, we are all part of the Pacific. I never realized how much we were close to the Pacific, or how big, was the Pacific to us until you get to Vancouver, for instance, or you get to New Zealand. On the other hand, migration is a very important part of who we are in Panama. Some years ago, I'm talking more than a decade ago, possibly 20 years ago, I was near the Old Town in Panama, and I remember a group of young Pakistani boys playing cricket in a parking lot. They are Panamanians, they are Pakistani, they are part of us, they are us, we are they. So it's just bringing and picking up all those links that already exist and making it, making it being together, making it noticed again. And definitely, I mean, I'm quite sure that we can get ideas together of how to be closer one to the other, because this ocean always has been a way of, it's a bridge. It's not an ocean, it's a bridge.
Well, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity to share with you and obviously all our guests from the other side, because we are in different sides in this moment, but sharing this opportunity through this platform. Well, thank you so much again for to be with us celebrating this occasion, the anniversary of our republic, the Republic of Panama, and also the 199 years our independence from Spain through this conversation, through this conference. And we hope to see you soon. And again, thank you, Mr. Velez and Ms. Somoza, for this occasion.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
A pleasure.
Well, thank you so much again, and bye.
Thank you. Gracias, Rebeca, por todo. Un gusto compartir contigo, como siempre.
Igualmente.